Hello, everybody. What am I doing today? I'm talking about another random series. Today's is The Heroine Wants Me as Her Sister-in-Law. I believe this one counts as a manhwa. I don't know. I don't really care. Um, if you haven't watched any of the other reviews I've done, at the start I just give you a general rating. If you don't want to hear anything else about the series, then you can click off as soon as I give you that general rating. Afterwards, I'm not going to go heavy into spoilers or anything, but I am going to give some detail, so if you want to go in completely, blank, then I would recommend clicking off after, I give the general rating. For this series, I'm going to give it a 7. Yeah, I think a 7's pretty good. I like it. Why would I give it a 7? Well, you'll have to hear that in a second here. I mean, if you... Now, here's the gist. If you don't want to hear anything about the series before going into it, now's the time to click away. I'm not going to go into spoilers or anything, but if you literally want to know nothing, now is the time to click away. You done? Okay. So, getting into the actual meat and potatoes of the series. Who are the main characters? Well, I wonder. Yeah, okay. So, right off the rip, I'm going to tell you straight up, it's an isekai, but it's not like a super heavy influence from the isekai part. I feel like it's almost a pointless isekai. Like, why even call it an isekai? It's so pointless. But, general gist, this is the main character, this girl right here. She is reincarnated into a novel, yes. But like the common trend that we see now, she's reincarnated not as the villain or the main character or something like that. No, she's reincarnated as a side character. She is the male lead in the original novel's sister. Okay. She finds this out at a relatively young age and then tries to change the plot, as most people would. And I would say, for the most part, succeeds. What is the general story? Well, she is being abused in her little clan, I guess. She is I know they don't have little, ears or whatever, but they show up in the series periodically. And this guy is a dragon. I don't know why they picked wolves and dragons of all things, but yes, that's what it is. In the original series, her brother gets with this guy's sister after he dies, and the sister goes on a little bit of a rampage, and then it's one of those R19 or 18 novels where it's like, oh, the girl is like domineering the guy and everything, and that's supposed to be her brother. But in this case, that doesn't happen. Instead, we have her and him being the main focus, I would say, of, these two getting together. The general gist of the story is she finds that guy's sister just out in the woods, supposedly without her memories, and tries to take care of her. The sister ends up liking her and then wants to get the brother to go out with her. Yeah, that's the general gist. It's something that I've seen before, but not necessarily super frequently, so I think it's at least somewhat interesting in terms of, situations. It's kind of nice to see, like, the former main character trying to get the new main character to get with her brother, because she likes her. As far as, like, plot points and everything, pretty basic, just, them slowly getting attached, doing different things together. He has like an illness, she just so happens to have an ability that helps him with it. Super basic, you've seen it a million times, but I think it's all done fine, It's one of those times when, yes, there are tropey, and I think that takes away from it, but at least they're done well, so I don't, have to take more points away. So that's fine. What are some of the main elements? I mean, I guess like the major part that's a little bit different than a lot of the other ones is, she's kind of ostracized from the rest of her group. That's that's a little different for one of these scenarios specifically. Not necessarily different in terms of everything, but in terms of these scenarios. just for your information, I think I've read like 55 chapters, somewhere in that ballpark, just to get like a general gist of where I'm at in terms of the story, just in case you've read more or whatever, and you're like, I can't believe you said this. I don't think you need to read everything before a review. I think, you know, if it's not good at the start, it's not good, and if it is good at the start, then it has something there. Yeah, general gist. As far as like character building, he's pretty basic. He just really likes her, but he's cold to other people, things like that. I would say he's a little more human-like than some of the other male protagonists you see in these kinds of stories, but not by much. And he is a dragon, so I guess that's fair. As far as she goes, she's pretty basic. Again, you know, yeah, I've seen most of what's happened before. I think, you know, there are a couple of building blocks that are put together in a different way, but for the most part, it's all the same, right? I think the real fun comes in when you look at like her brother, for example. Her brother, you know, he's a little more entertaining, actually acts like a kid in a story, which I'll give him credit, they don't normally do that. And then, of course, the male protagonist's sister, who's kind of like devious because she wants to like trick her brother and, you know, her soon-to-be sister-in-law to get into getting together. So she's a little bit interesting, but it's also kind of fun because she does act kind of like a child trying to do this. So she makes mistakes and things like that. And it's, you know, childish, which I think is kind of fun. It's more of like a very mature child, which makes it an entertaining little story. Yeah, I mean, that's about it for those two. What else? Oh yeah, there's, this is like, just so you know, the idea of the original story. She's the domineering one. The... Not so domineering, I don't want to say sub or something, but you get the idea. But in this case, they're not following these two, they're following their siblings. What would I say about the story? Well, there's really only 4 characters that I would say are, well, 5-ish characters that are super relevant. She has a pseudo-stalker that treated her poorly as a child and now wants to be with her. I've seen that trope done before. I don't know if this one necessarily stands out to me. I would say the reason I'm giving it like a 7 is because it has a lot of tropes, but it at least does them fine. Like, I don't have any issues with how any of the tropes are done. Also, the art, I would say, is pretty good. I enjoy the art. It's fully colored, just like most manhwa you see out there. Designs, not super unique. Just basic black hair, red eye kind of Duke situation, dragon. He's not technically a Duke or whatever, I think he's like a chief or whatever, but it's the same idea. And then, of course, silver hair, white hair, blue eyes, protagonist, super generic. Yeah, I mean, it's a little fun, I guess, with the whole idea of like her hiding the fact that she's like a fox. And in a way, you know, there are some little twists and turns with that throughout the series in terms of like what this character's reactions are to that. Seeing how she has to, you know, she wants to hide it from people, things like that. And I guess there are elements of the isekai that come into play, like, you know, her wanting to go to the human world, for example. But they're pretty loose. Really, the only point of the isekai idea was just to get the start of the story going, with, like, her trying to, you know, stop the events of the original story, which she dies in, which is why she wants to stop it, if you're not clear on that. Just so you know, everything I'm saying here is very, very early on. Not any of the major aspects, and also the story's very plain. You've probably seen it before if you've seen any one of these. Yeah, I would say for the most part that's about it. I think it's, you know, relatively decent on art. The story is fine. You know, nothing special, nothing unique. Just does the basics well. Designs, again, basics, but well. I mean, I think the art's good. The art's also very consistent, which I appreciate. The whole dragon wolf thing, it comes into play a little bit, but not much. I mean, granted, I haven't read everything that's come out in the series or whatever, but I've read enough where I feel like if it was going to come out, it would have come out by now. Like, it happens here and there, like it's a little reoccurring, but not much, frankly. Um, yeah, I think that's really about it. I'd give it a 7. It's a solid read. I'd recommend reading it. I just wouldn't necessarily say it's going to stand out to you in terms of any of the other stories that are out there. But yeah, I think it's a good read. If you have any other stories that you want me to go over, let me know below. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. The basic YouTube spiel. And I'll see ya.